Welcome to the Impromptu Life. My name is Artettina, or Artettina. I'm most Artettina. And I am super excited about this piece today. Here are some of the finished images of it. We are going to do this watercolor with magnolia flowers. And I did it in time lapse, so it's going to be quite quick. I just did some preliminary sketches, got a basic idea when I do watercolors this way, which is more of how I paint with other mediums. I do a little bit of bleeding, but not like a lot. And in most of my watercolors, you've noticed I do quite a bit of bleeding into each other. And even if you look closely on this one, you can actually see it's a bunch of different colors actually blending together. It's just I did it more. I mean, at first I do it with a real wet brush, as you can see here, but then I come in for the details with a much finer method. More of a method I would use for, like, say, acrylics or oils. Either way, that's what don't forget to like and subscribe if you love creative videos, creative painting. I'm also going to be having some build stuff on my channel, and because I'm going to be off grid here in a little while, and we'll be doing projects out there. I also do pop surreal sculptures. We're going to do cooking, health. It's just going to be a fun, well, impromptu life. That's why I call it the impromptu life, or why I changed the name to that. And also, if you know of people who really enjoy the creative process, if it inspires them, if you know they love watching people paint or create things or build things, please share the video. It really helps me out, and I hope to think it would help out the creative artists in your life as well. So as you can see, I did most of my preliminary bleeds underneath and let them dry a little bit. And you'll see me jumping around in different sections and in different parts of the painting. And again, I think I mentioned this in one of my other ones too. That's because I'm waiting for a section to get drier. This is the 30% cotton and the rest of it is pulp watercolor paper. It is hot press, so it is super smooth, and it takes a bit of getting used to. I like the feel now and I like the look, but it really was very frustrating at first because I'm used to a little bit of texture. I'm used to a little bit how it absorbs differently. And I have been using 100% pulp, and I also have Arches 100% cotton, and this is a combination. So I think it was somewhat of a very interesting experiment. I do like, when I was doing this one, the kind of details that I could get, and I also used this paper for doing some coffee paintings. If you, well, you can go to my channel and you can see that I do some paintings with pure Java, just coffee, and I mix it as thick as India ink, and we paint really fun paintings. I love painting the coffee artwork, and people do seem to really like them. They're quite a fun novelty, and I do try to keep the sizes relatively small in those. This year I'm going to be doing more the size of napkins, but those have been really fun. And I tested this paper, since that's what we were talking about, with the coffee, and I really liked it. I wasn't sure how it would do at first, and it does have a little bit of a different look. I also like doing the coffee on the 100% pulp paper. That's a little bit textured. So, but you just have to look closely at the artwork and decide what you like best. Again, before I forget, in the description below of my videos, and also I think it's also on the main page, you can actually find links to my platforms where my artwork is available that that I currently have. Some, if you can't find it, it is most likely sold, but you can look there. Very rarely do I get videos up before I have a piece listed, but occasionally that does happen, so you can always ask. You can always leave a comment or something and ask. I also love people's feedback. If you like the time-lapse videos the best, where you see almost all of the stages, but it's kind of like this, I do like to keep them relatively short if it's not something too complicated like multimedia sculptures. But And we'll have some much more detailed 3D multimedia sculpture videos. Eventually, I will have those. I hope that you like this and that you really enjoy it. I love this process. I'm really growing a like for this really smooth watercolor paper, even though it is more difficult. There isn't as much lift when I try to lift things. There's it does seem to dry a bit quickly. It also changes shapes and more so. For instance, like if you were to buy this one, I don't know if I show it here in the video, but and you turn it over, you can kind of, not that you're ever going to be looking at the back of the painting, but you can kind of see where the subject is. Like you can see that the paper's moved or the paper's, I don't want to say warped, but it's just, you can tell. Whereas with other paper, and of course that's, you can always press that out a bit if you wanted, but obviously it's going to be, watercolors are usually displayed behind glass and it's not a big deal. It's not something you see from the front. I just, I just noticed that kind of thing. And a lot of the art, because these are original pieces, I love doing and selling original one of a kinds. Even with other mediums, even with the acrylics, when I'm doing the acrylics on the thicker mixed media or watercolor papers, I like doing that too because sometimes I just like them textured, and I'm pretty free and open to how I'm using my mediums. Even when I do that, the acrylics can bend the paper a little bit. I have several crows now and ravens. You know how I love to paint these birds. I I don't know if I'm going to be doing, I will be eventually doing some more, but sometimes I wait for a few of a type of bird or whatever to sell before I do some more, and I have some requests, so we'll see. The acrylic ones, I've also been using this paper with, and again, I think if I was a beginning watercolorist or a beginning artist, I'm not sure I would like this paper. I would be like, why is this so hard? Why is this so hard? And with the other papers, or especially with arches or papers where you want certain type of bleeding or you need it to stay relatively moist for longer periods, this is going to be a more difficult paper. And I can't remember the exact company off the top of my head, which doesn't really matter. I think what matters is what you're looking for. Again, this is the 30% cotton and 70% pulp. Matter of fact, it doesn't even say exactly what the other one is, just 30% hot pressed cotton. And I'm like, and yeah, I have to assume the rest of it's pulp. But it is acid free art paper, so that's all I care about. But I thought, oh, I'll try this paper. It's a combination. And it is more difficult. It's almost like I do have to think more like I'm doing an acrylic or an oil, and I just have to be more willing to put on the layers, which you do with watercolor anyway, but that layer is going to be not as movable, I think, as some of the other types of paper. I just feel like it's easier to lift or to highlight or to with other paper. And again, and you'll notice in a lot of my watercolor videos, I don't have like a lot of the white masking. I don't do a lot of that stuff. And I suggest that you do if you want to. I mean, it's absolutely amazing effects that it can give. But I think with a lot of the work and the type of work that I'm doing, I just don't bother doing it. And so if you're somebody who doesn't want to do a lot of the masking or gluing, that kind of thing, then this would be maybe a design or a style or a way of painting that you would actually enjoy. I did enjoy doing this piece. There was only a couple little parts I'm like, like, do I add another layer, or is this gonna, like, it's a little frustrating sometimes when you're trying to remove something, but not so much. I mean, now that I've gotten used to it, when I very first was using it, it was because I used it for very dreamy, like floral work, which did work for the dreamy floral work because of the way the bleeding was and everything. But, and it was smooth, but it was acting so different than my other watercolor paper. There's just this there's a learning curve. That's all I'm trying to say. There's a little bit of a learning curve. Very happy with this one though. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to show a little bit more of it here. You guys have an amazing day. And again, please like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.